Right now, we're going to talk about AppArmor, which is a way of implementing mandatory access controls. Mandatory access controls are a way of setting system wide policies on files and users and the way that the different components and objects of a system interact with one another. This is different from discretionary access controls, where, for example, I, as a user, could actually set my own permissions. So, for example, I could say drop group access to, let's say, password.txt, for example. So this is an example of discretionary access controls, meaning that I, as a user, have the discretion to be able to change permissions for the different files in my directory. Any owner of an object could change permissions and settings on that object in a discretionary access control system. This is not the case if you are using something like AppArmor, for example. We've got AppArmor, and we're going to drop into the AppArmor directory, and what you've got here is a set of policies. So let's just take a look at one of them. We're going to take a look at FreshClam. Let me just copy this, and we'll just take a quick look at this particular configuration file. What we've got is a set of configurations for what this particular file here, user bin FreshClam, which is an executable, can actually do. We've got capabilities, so this can set group ID and it can also set user ID. There are places where it can get access to the file system. We want to give it access to the proc directory, and of course, we certainly want it to be able to read from its own configuration files. And then there are places where you want it to be able to read and write to the configuration databases in the home directory. This is how we give different capabilities and permissions to some of these programs here. You can also see that we have cases where we want to deny access to this particular binary or executable here. We would use these profiles in order to configure mandatory access control settings on various programs within the system. When AppArmor is installed, it uses a set of kernel modules in order to monitor these sorts of behaviors so that AppArmor can make determinations as to what to allow and what not to allow. If you are running into cases where things aren't working quite right, you may want to look and see what you've got in terms of AppArmor profiles that may be blocking access to specific files or specific areas of the file system.